Time to find your seats and enjoy the views from the On Fek Circle, streaming to Blue Jay fans everywhere, every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on the Jays from the Couch YouTube channel. You can laugh a little while thinking a lot about baseball from a Blue Jays point of view. This program is joined on our YouTube channel by Sunny Side of the Dome, hosted by Jays from the Couch writer and analyst Karen Suter, live Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Karen is the voice of the diehard Blue Jays fan, and she brings Blue Jays news and notes to life in a very personal way. The Mothership, the Jays from the Couch radio podcast, streams live Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on our YouTube channel, the Jays from the Couch Facebook page, and on Twitter at Jays from Couch. Senior editor and Jays from the Couch founder Shaun Doyle creates and moderates Blue Jays Talk for All with Blue Jays players, beat writers, out-of-town analysts. Never miss our fake Blue Jays news segments. You can download all 296 episodes anywhere you find your podcasts. All these fine programs stream free and are brought to you by JaysFromTheCouch.com. I am the madman across the border, the Fekless Wonder, Steve Fek. It's good to be back with you. It's been tough here on the couch. You know, lots of, unfortunately, illnesses that, have been kind of lingering, for Shaun and myself and for Karen. So we feel kind of bad that there's been some intermittent programming. And I personally apologize for the fact that this may be the first broadcast that you've seen from Jays from the Couch for a while because of all the illnesses. But, we're gonna plug on through. We got lots of things coming up. I'm going to start off with some ceremonial first pitches, some business type stuff. JaysFromTheCouch.com is your home for quality Blue Jays news. Ryan Mueller's daily Blue Jays minor league recap, Blue Jays analysis and opinion articles, and I contribute 2 weekly series, MLB Minute on Sundays. It's a look around MLB from a Blue Jays point of view. And on Mondays, I generally have put up a Blue Jays weekend preview, so we can kind of look ahead and see what's on the schedule and what to expect from the Blue Jays in the week ahead. And we also invite you to go and support Jays from the Couch's efforts to raise funds for ALS Canada in their ongoing fight against amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. You can make a tax-deductible donation right there on our website. You have to scroll through the articles, but down at the bottom, you'll see a little area where it'll say JFtC versus ALS. You can make a tax-deductible donation. I know what we're doing with our Jays from the Couch Fantasy Baseball League is the 2 division winners are going to have a $50 donation made in their names to the ALS campaign through Jays from the Couch, and the overall league champion will have an additional $100 donated in their name, as well as a great prize package, a $300 prize package. Coming up on the podcast next Monday on the 23rd, we're going to have 2 people, Cherie and Alex from ALS Double Play. It's a terrific initiative that kind of coincides with the efforts of not only ALS Canada, but what we try to achieve. They actually sponsor a dedicated researcher for a multi-year contract to help try to find a cure, or at least some kind of treatments that can restore quality of life for patients with ALS. So make sure you should always be tuning into the podcast. That's a given. But this coming Monday, we're going to dedicate part of the podcast to ALS Double Play and the ongoing ALS and JFtC campaign. If you happen to be on the website and go to our Redbubble shop, you can also purchase some pretty cool swag, shirts like I have over my right shoulder. We've got coffee mugs and clocks and all kind of really cool stuff. 100% of the profits go directly to ALS of Canada. So you might notice I have an Atlanta Flames hat on, for those of you that are too young to remember. The Flames weren't always in Calgary. They started in Atlanta. Just as I'm old enough to remember when there was no Toronto Blue Jays, I remember following the then Atlanta Flames when they expanded into existence in '72. So I thought I would kind of show my flame support. My hometown Penguins uh, spit the bit, lost to the Rangers. So the only team I really have left now is the Flames. Battle of Alberta should be pretty cool coming up. Anybody notice that Robbie Ray wasn't on the bench last night? He did not travel with the team to Toronto. So that sheds a light. And again, it's all speculative. I don't want Robbie's agent or anybody else trying to slap me with some kind of slander lawsuit for saying this, but he's obviously not met COVID protocol and vaccination requirements. They bumped him up a start in the rotation so he could pitch Sunday. They had some off days last week, so they were able to move him up a day so that he would not miss a turn, but he did not travel with the team. He did the Drew Steckenrider, but you have to wonder, did that play a major role in the Blue Jays? What had been kind of was sort of suddenly cooled their interest in bringing Robbie Ray back, the reigning Cy Young Award winner. Hard to say. I'm not saying that's why he didn't come to Toronto. I can't imagine that he didn't come to Toronto because, he was heartbroken or homesick or anything like that. So you have to wonder, is that was what was going on? We certainly know that that's a big reason why Steven Matz was allowed to sign elsewhere. Matz is a more fundamental evangelical Christian. So as a rule, vaccines in general are frowned upon. So he was not going to get vaccinated so that he could meet the requirements to be able to pitch in Toronto. Robbie Ray is also has a pretty strong Christian faith. Maybe that's why he did it, but I just found it really, really interesting that Robbie Ray did not travel with the team. But since we're talking about taking your number one starter and moving him up a day so he wouldn't miss a start, given that the Blue Jays had 2 days off the previous week, would it really have ruined the grand plan to move Jose Barrios up a day so he could pitch on his night where they were giving away 15,000 Jose Barrios jerseys? Don't you think that would have been like a really nice touch, a really well thought out? Atkins and Shapiro, they really do dwell on a lot of minutia. So I can't imagine with those extra off days that it could not have been wrangled, especially given the injuries to the staff. And, Ryu maybe could have been held back another day or two. I don't get it. It was great to see all those Barrios jerseys and everything. And it was cool to see Barrios' mom throw out the first pitch. Lefty, southpaw. We might need a signer to replace Tim Mesa in the bullpen. But I just don't get how that didn't work out. But I don't want to get bogged down in Atkins type minutia. I want to talk about where the Blue Jays are right now. Karen did a great job last week on Sunny Side of the Dome, pointing out to those that were trying to jump off of the bandwagon as quickly as they can, or were like, oh, everything's over, blah, 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 of showing that, championship teams do struggle at some point during the year. It's really, really rare they make it through a whole season. Even like the 84 Tigers, when they went 34-4, they were just middling the rest of the year. And the Blue Jays made a valiant attempt to try to run them down. But, teams are going to struggle. It's not time to panic and jump off the bandwagon. But watching the Kentucky Derby last week, and for those of you that don't know, an 80-1 long shot, Rich Strike, came out of nowhere to chase down the two favorites and win the Kentucky Derby. I mean, one of the largest long shots to ever win a Kentucky Derby. And it got me thinking about the Blue Jays. Now, the Blue Jays, in essence, won all the stake races they got in on in the offseason, so they could qualify for this pennant chase, the pennant derby, if you will. They signed Kevin Gausman when Robbie Ray left. They extended Jose Barrios. They traded for Matt Chapman. They brought in pieces that could prove to be helpful, to a team that has World Series aspirations. So now they enter the season, and horse racing is sort of like, you break it down into quarter poles. So if you think of it from a baseball scheduling standpoint, 40 games, 40 games, 40 games, 40 games. We're not quite at that quarter pole yet for the Blue Jays. But certainly the best laid plans of their trainer, Ross Atkins, and their jockey, Charlie Montoyo, have not necessarily shaped up where the Blue Jays are going to be the odds-on favorites so many people, including myself, have said that they would be. If you look at what Rich Strike did, he was literally the morning of the race, he was entered into the field. He was eligible, but he was not officially in the field, and they came up with a great plan. Everything unfolded the way they wanted it to, even though he was way, way back in the pack. The hole opened up at the rail. We were able to weave in and out and then break outside and chase down the two favorites, who basically had led from the beginning. The Blue Jays, in theory, could be viewed upon as as that kind of an entry in the pennant chase. They certainly had to make up all kind of ground last year to get as close as they did, to basically get edged out by a nose out of the playoffs last year. But it makes you wonder, the Blue Jays have the pedigree, they have the bloodlines, they have the Vladdies and the Teoscars, Lourdes and Alek Manoah and Barrios and Gausman. You all know who, the big stars are on the Blue Jays roster. So they have the bloodlines, and they have the talent. It's getting to the point that you have to start wondering, can they handle the distance? Can they apply and use and utilize all the talents on this roster to the best way possible and be able to chase down, the big favorites, the Yankees, the Astros? You have to wonder. Again, it's not over. If you want to jump off the bandwagon, that's fine. And then if you want to come back on social media or here during the live stream, you can put up your questions, and Shaun Doyle behind the scenes will put your question up. We want this to be a conversation, so that's much more important than any notes I might have written down. Or during the week, I do go back to the YouTube channel and Facebook and Twitter, and I try to respond to any comments or questions that come up there. And you can say, well, Fek, oh, last year you were saying, oh, they're not good enough. Oh, they don't have what it takes to be a, playoff team, and they came within one game. Blah, 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 blah. That's true. I did say that. This team, the 2022 Blue Jays, are not the 2021 Blue Jays because the majority of the pieces that needed to be added to the training regimen and to the mix were acquired by Ross Atkins. A lot of things can affect a horse race. Sometimes the big stud horses, quite often favorites, want to go out. They want to get a good break. If they're not on the lead, they want to be awfully close to the lead through the first quarter pole, through the first half of the pole. They want to stay in the lead. They want to adapt to the pace and stay there and then turn it on to finish off anybody that thinks they can try to chase them down. So you certainly have to look at the Yankees and the Astros as those, front pacers, certainly early in the early going. However, not everybody that's going to be in the playoffs is necessarily going to get off, is going to break well out of the gate and go out there. You can look at the Rays. The Rays struggled early. They're still not hitting. But their pitching staff is just so ridiculously good that, okay, they're maybe, just off the pace now, but they have the talent to stay in that race all the way through. For the second year in a row, the Blue Jays are a little further back. Now, again, this is by no means is this what happened last May in early June, which was just, it still gives me nightmares what happened last year. But they're going to have to make up ground. Okay, they're already, 7 some odd games out of first place behind the Yankees. They trail the Rays. Fortunately for them, the Red Sox may have dug themselves a Blue Jays type hole that they won't be able to make up. But so they're looking ahead at the field now. And they're the trainer, Ross Atkins, the jockey, Charlie Montoyo, already have a plan, and they work out various scenarios. Okay, if you don't break well, or if there's an issue, with the turf or the track or whatever it is, they have a couple of different plans about how to get themselves out of that. There's not a guarantee that, like with Rich Strike, suddenly the hole's going to open up at the gate that's going to allow the Blue Jays to dash through that hole and then position themselves on the outside of the teams that are ahead of them to be able to chase them down and win either the AL East or the AL pennant. Lots of things can contribute to that. And, even if you're not a big horse racing fan, I'm sure you've seen them run, and you can see where some of the better horses just kind of get trapped behind other teams, other horses. So you could say that the performance of the Twins and the LA Angels, who I did say would win the American League West in my FECU projections. I would pat myself on the back, but my shoulder is sore. So those teams aren't going to necessarily yield ground that easily. They're not going to offer up those holes for the Jays to sneak in and weave it and out and go past them. The Angels are for real. If Byron Buxton can stay healthy, we already know he's not going to play 140, 150 games. He's probably going to play, I don't know, 110, 120. They're not going anywhere either. You have another big powerhouse horse, Chicago, and the White Sox, that on paper have what it takes to chase down the teams ahead of them. But the White Sox, perhaps more than any other American League contender, have been adversely affected by injuries. And injuries are the factor that no trainer slash GM, no jockey slash manager can control. They happen. And the Blue Jays certainly have had more than their share. Teoscar Hernandez was out for a while. Danny Jansen has just come back. But it's not necessarily the devastating injuries, year-ending injuries that cause a less than expected performance. It's the nagging little injury. Now, Tim Meza is going to be out, I would imagine, for a while. He is a piece that the Blue Jays cannot afford to not be part of the team. He is the only legitimate left-handed relief option available to Charlie Montoyo right now, coming out of that bullpen. He has the history of Tommy John. He has a forearm strain. That's ominous. I'm not saying he's going to have Tommy John again, but he's been used a lot over the last 2 seasons plus the early part of this year. Maybe the arm just couldn't hold up. And Meza doesn't come in and pitch multiple innings and then get a couple of days rest. He comes in leverage situations on a pretty regular basis. So potentially for someone that has had Tommy John surgery, that regular usage in short bursts can be detrimental. And I would watch Jordan Romano. I mean, I know that Romano, they're saying, he has some kind of non-COVID related illness. But I have noticed something over the last couple of appearances when they cut to him in the bullpen warming up. After he makes a throw or a series of throws, he steps off the bullpen mound, walks around kind of gingerly, and you'll see him bending his right leg. And he did have knee issues last year. Is he hurt? No, but if a racehorse gets a pebble stuck in its hoof underneath its shoe, it's not going to be able to drive and thrust to add speed. Does this mean that the Blue Jays are not going to win this race? That's not really what I'm saying. What I am saying is that the longer the offensive problems happen, the longer, and the bullpen is pitched in general very well, but the Blue Jays have a pretty significant run differential as far as being in the negative. That's a result of not Romano or Meza or Garcia or any of the guys, but it's the result of relievers coming in and coughing up big chunks of runs. So the bullpen is not by any means is it finished. That is not a baton that Charlie Montoyo can strike the Blue Jays carcass with and hindquarters with to urge them to go on at this point. it could turn around. Personally, I'm very nervous about Ryan Baraki at this point being the only left-handed option. He's had injury problems. It's been a long time coming. If you want to have him as a left-hander in the bullpen, okay. He had a good performance last night. I can see him doing that. I just don't see him being a solution in the long run. So, how are the Rays always so good? Bob, that's a great question. It's strictly their approach to scouting. They don't necessarily draft the best prospect, most highly touted prospect at any given times. Their scouts, then their front office looks at the people they're drafting or acquiring in trades to see, can this pitcher be successful in this situation, whether it's opener, closer, whatever it be. Can he bounce around, play a lot of positions? That's what the Rays do better than just about any team that I can remember. And I've been watching baseball, as you have, for a very long time. Thank you for your question, Bob. It's truly nobody really talks about what the Rays do enough. They just don't. It is absolutely amazing. It's almost heartbreaking because remember we talked earlier about, can the Blue Jays handle the distance? The Rays can stick in a race, even take the lead in a race. I don't know that as you get to the more competitive races, they can handle the distance doing what they do. They're still finishing the money. They're going to cash their tickets. And I'm glad you brought that up, Bob, because that's something that really Blue Jays fans should look at. Okay, the Rays are so good, and they've been in there virtually every single year over the last decade and a half. They've been to the World Series. They just don't seem to have what it takes to close it out. Their heart, big heart, they just can't, excuse me, get it done. All right, time for a Blue Jays bedtime story. And this week, we're going to talk about, once upon a time, that there was a soft-spoken prince by the name of Prince Pat Gillick. At the very early days of the formation of the Blue Jays kingdom, Gillick was a trusted advisor. He wasn't calling the shots. He wasn't running the show. But people around the team, people around in other kingdoms knew that Prince Pat knew what he was talking about and that someday he would achieve greatness. Now, the first king, did come from regal bloodlines. Peter Bavasi, the first general manager, and then ultimately a team president for the Blue Jays. His dad was instrumental in not only the Brooklyn Dodgers, but the LA Dodgers' successes through the years. So Peter kind of grew up around that. He had a wise old father. Now, mind you, his father was often banished for some of his tomfoolery and less than business-like approaches to how he was building his kingdom. But Peter at least had again the bloodlines. He had a role model to look to try to be a good and wise king. Now, Prince Pat, in spring training of 1977, saw a Louisiana left-hander by the name of Ron Guidry. And it was love at first sight. Almost immediately, Prince Pat entered into negotiations with the advisor of another kingdom. There was a very evil tyrant in the Yankee kingdom by the name of George Steinbrenner, but his underling, someone who tried to do the best he could, given the crazy King George type of actions that happen on a regular basis. He reached out to Gay Paul and said, "We want to make Ron Guidry a citizen of Blue Jays Nation." The Blue Jays had drafted a veteran starter by the name of Bill Singer. He was 33 at the time that the Blue Jays were formed. And he had lots and lots of success. In fact, his father drafted Bill Singer when he was overseeing the kingdom in Chavez Ravine. And Gay Paul said, "Oh, wow, we can get a veteran starter." The Yankees had aspirations in 77. They were set up to make a legitimate run to the World Series, which they ultimately did. So they agreed. Bill Singer, veteran pitcher, would go to the Yankees for a young, fiery left-hander by the name of Ron Guidry. Prince Pat was pretty happy. He, though, as only as an advisor, did not have the power to have this, to grant citizenship to Ron Guidry, if you will. So he had to go to Peter Bavasi, who, in typical Peter Bavasi fashion, vetoed the deal. Now, he had grown up as a kid or a young adult watching Bill Singer pitch for the Dodgers. And his dad tried unsuccessfully when his dad took over in San Diego to try to trade for Bill Singer as he was getting older, to try to have some kind of stability, a rather pathetic Padres team of the early 70s after expansion. Bavasi said no. So Bill Singer stayed in the Blue Jays kingdom, pitched through the snow on opening day against the White Sox in April of 1977. He ended up on the disabled list in like late May, spent all of June and early July trying to rehab an arm injury that would prove ultimately to be a career ender. He came back briefly, never pitched again after July 16th, 1977. So that's what King Peter Bavasi thought the Blue Jays needed. They built their initial PR campaign a lot around Bill Singer, having, people looked at the Dodgers as a team that had flash and cash. So they built their promotional campaign in a large part around Bill Singer. And Ron Guidry had a decade of just mind-blowing success pitching for the evil tyrant George Steinbrenner in New York. It's a clammy tale, but not every Blue Jays bedtime story is going to have a happy ending. So we thank you for tuning in. We're here every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on the Jays from the Couch YouTube channel, also Facebook page, and on Twitter at Jays from Couch. On Thursday, Sunny Side of the Dome, Karen Suter hosts that program on the YouTube channel and our podcast. It'll be the 297th podcast coming up this Monday. Our senior editor and founder, Shaun Doyle, moderates that program, and we're going to be talking with some folks from ALS Double Play, a Canadian-based thing, about their efforts to help raise money for ALS, just like Jays from the Couch does. A lot of people, even baseball fans, will look at this and just say, well, it's just a baseball. Blue Jay fans know it's a lifestyle. So make sure you keep tuning into all the great Jays from the Couch programming. Love the bedtime story. Well, I'm glad you like the bedtime story, Sarah. I mean, Lord knows I can put people to sleep with the best of them. But I'm glad you enjoyed the bedtime story. I know you're just kind of getting into baseball, so it's you're the kind of person that I'm trying to gear these bedtime stories to. But even longtime, lifelong Blue Jay fans don't know some of the details. But again, this is a lifestyle, not just a baseball. I'll be back next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Tune in to Sunny Side of the Dome on Thursday and the live stream of our podcast on Monday.